Latb, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the Latb Podcast.
Welcome back to Latb MMA Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Emmanuel, here with the best co-hostess I could ever wish for. We got Jaynes laying it down after a heavy weekend of fights. We had 8 bouts finally show out, but if you want to get our in-depth details, if you want to find out about all the passing out and losing all the fights, definitely go to Fights of the Round Table for all that good stuff. Did you actually happen to hear that Joanne Calderwood passed out after her fight that she lost?
What? It was a whole...
Yeah, in the back. It was a cursed event if we've ever seen one.
It sure was a cursed event. I was wondering if when Giles, I thought it was all the Giles talk, and then I'm like, oh, he fell out on the show. I was unsure if I should release that show or not, and then I rewatched it and I was like, okay, nothing crazy happened at the end. Everything was cut in due time.
Definitely got a little bit hairy. Saw the light at the end of the tunnel for a little bit there, but hey, we're back on fight schedule. We had
for those of you that don't know, we made E cut weight for this last episode of Fights of the Round Table, and actually enough though, different than Giles. You made it all the way to the end of the fight.
I was the last one, and I was like, I don't feel so good. Well, and then everything went to her. So, it was definitely a good one. We've had a lot happening, though. We've had people asking us about Dana White Contender Series. If you want to know what I'm thinking about those fights and what's going on, feel free to @ me on Twitter. I'll chat with anyone if I get into tape, but I'm usually doing breakdowns for these Saturday cards more so than Tuesday type of fillers, which it's not UFC fighters looking for that contract. But did you catch any of those fights last night on Dana White Contender Series? There were some hot ones.
I hate to say this. I was watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Wow. True colors being shown.
Well, it was Dana White's Contender Series, so I watched Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and then I watched MMA Mark's live cast, and then I went to bed like a normal human, which doesn't happen for me very often. So how were the fights?
There was definitely some of the worst judging I've ever seen, regardless of level of fights. There was a Rodriguez versus a young man who he came in short notice and gave a fight of the year as far as Contender Series. Just a hell of a scrap. Neither of them got the contract, but 30-27 the opposite way. Just there's no way. The young man Rodriguez won 2 of those rounds decisively. But then there was some contracts dished out. 185er who's getting the Shabazian treatment. They're like, oh, he's a new UFC champ. This kid, he kicked this other guy in the liver on week's notice, and we've never seen anything like it. Oh my God, sign him right now. Like, it's, people are really quick to jump on these hype trains right now. So, yes, there's a lot of good contenders coming out of these series, but a UFC champ, we haven't had one yet. Tough house. That's giving us chance.
Am listening, and I'm trying to figure it out because I'm so irritizzle. Still the Shabazian Brunson picture for our live feed right now. It's just irritating.
I did just catch that.
So I didn't want to turn it off again and stop the feed, but it's just depressing because YouTube has some all new setup download. But this is another reason why we're going to be on Zoltanite's Twitch. So if you are a YouTube watcher, you need to go over to Twitch and make sure that you're following Zoltanite. And if you're like, I don't Twitch, you can stream it to your TV the same way as you can YouTube. You can download it and watch it on your phone the same way you can YouTube. There is really no difference. And probably a lot of the topics that you're looking for, you might be able to find on Twitch TV as well. So that is a free plug for Twitch, but also because when we switched formats before and we had the double download with our stream, a lot of our listeners couldn't find us for a while. So when one day they can't find us on YouTube, I want them to know where we're at this time.
So, been censoring these hot picks lately, if you know what I mean. So, other news going on, Yair versus Zabit is officially canceled as well. Did you hear any of that on the MMA versus Yair fell out again? High ankle injury, fracture. He doesn't want to fight Zabit, just like most of his other fights, very hand-picked opponents. Does he want? Was not Yair released once for not wanting to fight Zabit?
I did feel that, but then Yair came out in like 2 brutal wars. He fought like somebody and then the Jeremy Stephens twice, right?
Stevens.
And
I think it was Jeremy Stephens twice.
Just twice, Jeremy Stephens.
Right.
That's the only other time we've seen him.
Well, one of them, he poked him in the eye in the first 30 seconds of the fight and then blamed Stephens for bitching out of the fight. And it's like, what? You poked him. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's normal. I don't know. I want to like Yair now. I don't want to think of him as... I know this is. I don't want to think he has bitch in his blood, but the fact that he does not seem to want the Yair fight,
the Zabit fight.
Yeah,
absolutely agreed with that. It's just once, okay, twice, sure. 4 and 5 times, it's like, all right, well, you're obviously trying to handpick your opponents right now. Sounds like you got to finish this one in there. So. He knows what we're here for.
The wife is home. The wife is home.
Well,
just in case Hillary Clinton's trying to solidify our schedule.
They'll be able to track it. Yeah. I'm sure.
They've been tracking it.
What we're all here for. Truth. A whole 12-card bout we have coming up before the pay-per-view. It's going to be headlined by Derek Lewis versus Alexei Olenek. These 12 bouts have been ramshackled together. We got short notice replacements out the wazoo. It's a new post-COVID world, and we have fights every single week from here on out. Twice a week sometimes with these Contender Series fights. So getting's good if you're loving MMA right now. We're going to have some fun debuting opponents in here. The main event is super sketchy, but you know how we always do around here. We start from the bottom to the top, and it's going to start off at 135 pounds with debuting Ali Al-Qais. Qais?
Ali Abdelaziz. I thought that would be funny. Like, here we go with a weird fight card.
Against Erwin Rivera. Erwin Rivera making his debut 2 months ago on short notice. The 9-5 fighter lost to Giga Chikadze in a decision, but really showed a lot of talent. The Titan standout shows that he's a kickboxer, will throw in some rudimentary shots, but really just likes to stand and bang. Solid chin. I mean, he ate some unbelievable strikes by Chikadze and was able to keep going a hard 3. Now he's going to have an actual 2 weeks, 3 weeks notice to get a bit more ready for this against this debuter, the Royal Fighter. The Royal Fighter, 8-3, fighting out of Brave, is mainly a submission guy. He does have some knockouts early in his career, but they're like heavy overhand rights, and then it's a jumping guillotine. He loves that high elbow guillotine. He loves to throw it or reach for all sorts of spots on it, and he lays in hard. It works on the regional scene. I don't know if it'll work in the UFC so much. The thing is that Erwin Rivera, I don't know if he's necessarily UFC caliber as well. The only reason he got in the UFC was because he was willing to step in on 6 days' notice. So the UFC is giving him his secondary bout right now, and a lot of intangibles here. For that matter, I don't know if Ali in here, the Royal Fighter, was much of a prospect on the scene. His last fight was 8 months ago, where he got a decision in there. Very low volume. The strikes just aren't. He does blitz people in there, but it's really just an overhand right, and then he'll muscle some takedowns in there. He looks like he has alopecia, and it's so weird because he's got a full head of hair, dark eyebrows, but in this photo and his fights later on, he's just as smooth and oiled up as I could ever see. I don't know if he doesn't like to go to the ground or something here, but the Jordanian fighter, I think, is going to have the slight grappling advantage, but I don't know if he's going to be able to take down Rivera. I think Rivera might have better takedown defense, and as long as he watches for that high elbow guillotine, Rivera can turn this into a very dirty, gritty fight. I think it goes decision for Rivera. It is a big fat stay away. I've been playing a lot of these lately. and it's worked out at times. But for me, this one really just has decision written all over it. I could see either guy finishing, but I think it's a big fat stay away. We got 11 more ahead of us to be able to make spots. Give me Rivera, the minus 200 favorite. What do you think you're going to be going on this first one of the night?
I'm probably going to stay away from this. I'm going to pick Rivera decision if he ekes out the 2 rounds. But the other dude does have a powder look about him.
Absolutely.
Powder.
Absolutely. That poor creepy kid. The stories he's got.
Oh boy. I don't even want to say because it'll get us shadow banned.
So on DraftKings, you're going to end up having to pay $8,900 for the favorite Rivera against Ali's $7,300. Big fat stay away. There's no way you can have Rivera that expensive. He has to get on number one. Minimal exposure, and I think a lot of the field's going to end up playing that way as well. Then we move on to 145 pounds, where we have returning Youssef Zalal coming in against debuting Peter Barrett, the Slippery Pete. So slippery being all sorts of narrative for this fight card. The 11-3 fighter is coming off a 2-fight winning streak. One out of the Contender Series 11 months ago, where he won a decision. Prior to that, getting some cage experience on some really low-level scenes out there, losing a couple of his bouts via submission, even a triangle choke before. Barnett swings heavy. He's got a good hook to a double leg takedown. Not tons of power, not the best kicks in the world. Has a solid gas tank, but there was nothing in any of the tapes, even some of the finishes he had against those regional guys, that really stuck out. A lot of those regional guys looked very, very limited with their 5-1, 5-0 records. I think what we've seen lately from Zalal and his last 3-fight winning streak has been nothing but top notch. 2 in the UFC, beating Jordan Griffin as an underdog and Lingo as a big underdog as well. Zalal is finally getting the credit he deserves here out of Factory Muay Thai. He's shown us a great gas tank, great fight IQ, not necessarily the biggest punching power, but Zalal's been mixing it up as good as anyone in there, going to the legs, body, and head, clearly, decisively, and able to put it up for a solid 3 rounds. Just a lot of people are high on this young man for a lot of good reasons, and that Griffin fight really showed it, because I think Griffin is a very underrated fighter as well. He was a big underdog there, and Zalal just really showed a lot of veteranship at such an early age. I feel like Zalal here gets the decision. If there's a finish, I think it's only on Zalal's side as well. I'm going to probably end up putting a couple little spots on him here, but it's going to be in that 10% range. I don't think I'm going to go too heavy. I do like this going all 3 rounds. Give me a decision for the heavy minus 350 favorite. Who do you think you're going to be taking?
I also have Zalal. I really liked his last performance. I think this could be like a fight of the night. Both these guys seem like they could come out throwing leather and maybe make it all the way to the end. I like Zalal in this fight. I also think he's going to leave his heart in there and throw a shit ton of punches. I don't know how heavy of a favorite he is on DraftKings. I usually like to stay away from this guy's this far down. But this guy seems like he stands and bangs. Like he seems like a 90-point, 110-point dude.
He has an average of 73 points for a cost for Zalal of 9,300 against debuting Barrett's 6,900. Out of the two, the only play Zalal there, but that's ultra expensive. 9-3. He's going to be one of the highest priced fighters of the night, and I just don't see him paying that out unless he finishes in the first round. Even with 3-round decisions where he was winning pretty decidedly, he only got 73 points. So 10% Zalal, 0 I'm going to be on Barrett there. Anything on DraftKings do you think you're going to be doing with that? Staying in 145 pounds, or did we move up 10 pounds here? We got returning Justin Jaynes coming in against Galvin Tucker. Jaynes being one of the best underdogs to come through as of late on short notice, 6 days notice against Frank Camacho. Not even 6 days, maybe it was like 2 or 3 days. He came in and blasted Frank Camacho in a first round finish in the first minute, knowing he had to get it done a month ago in there. Since then, staying in camp, he didn't take too much damage. There was a split over his eye from a headbutt in there. But Jaynes really getting it done with strikes in there, can blitz people. It is just that gas tank of his that even on his regional scene fights, when he got pushed into that third round, being 16-4, you really started to see where a lot of that high power, high flash, one shot type of combinations he throws adds up, and then he's just kind of like a duck out there waiting for the storm to be over. Where Gavin Tucker came in with as a hot prospect, losing his debut against Rick Glenn over 2 years ago, but a year ago finally beating Soo Woo Choi in a submission. 34-year-old.
Sorry.
So Tucker has a lot of variables in here. He can finish you via kicks. He can also get some submissions in on you. Shows solid wrestling. Gas tank as well. Chin is not bad. He's been able to take good shots. It's interesting that he's been in the UFC for 2 years, 10 months now, and only fought twice. And Jaynes is about to fight twice in a matter of under 2 months. So definitely different trajectories, but the Nova Scotia fighter is definitely, I feel like, a little bit more well-rounded overall. He may not have as much power as Jaynes and maybe a little better on the ground, but again, it's that Jaynes factor of that one-hitter quitter that might turn this into a really sloppy fight. But I do think that Tucker is able to drag this into the second and third round, and we see more of a decision type of a fight. I could see myself even picking Jaynes in this. This is an ultra close fight, almost a coin flip for a reason. Give me Gavin Tucker, minus 160 favorite here in this one. Who do you think you're going to be taking in this one?
I actually like Gavin Tucker a little bit as well. I don't even hate the Rick Glenn fight compared to the Camacho fight. Like, losing to Rick Glenn seems like better than winning to Frank Camacho. I mean, a win's always a win, but Frank Camacho at that point was whatever. I like Jaynes. I just worry that he's going to punch himself out in the first round of this fight, and Jaynes will kind of take over. I'm not worried about Jaynes or Tucker will take over. I'm not worried about Jaynes getting submitted, but I am worried about him having to fend off submissions for 3 minutes of a round and still losing a round, which I think could happen here. I think this is going to be a very close fight. I'm going with Jaynes' decision for the amount of output and damage I think that is done. But I think this could go either way. I think this is almost a pick 'em. But I see the hype off Jaynes. I understand it, but it shouldn't be 2-1.
Absolutely. It's not, but I agree with you. It should be much closer than it is right now. But there's a lot of people that are thinking Jaynes comes in here and finishes that KO real quickly. And as you're saying, I think there's a real possibility that he gasses if he doesn't get that finish in the first round right away. On DraftKings, you're going to end up having to pay $8,400 for the slight favorite Tucker against Jaynes's $7,800. On DraftKings here, I think people are going to be swayed to Jaynes because he got such a high score and his average is 108 and he's a bit cheaper. But I don't have exposure to him because he could get that first round finish, but don't go heavy in the paint on Jaynes by any means whatsoever. I'm going to go super light. I'll probably go 10 and 10%. I'll have one of them on each kind of card. And
do you know what Jaynes' dad's name is?
Heinous?
Hugh.
That's a good one.
I've got a Hugh Jaynes online one. Sorry, that's one of the things that would remember how we got so much entertainment for going on Periscope with Michael Hunt.
Yes, that was the best. Mike Hunt is one of the best people I've ever known in my life.
Sorry, go on.
So, moving on to 185 pounds, we have Andrew Sanchez coming in against Wellington Thurman. Thurman in here being 16-3, last beating Marcus Maluco Perez, who didn't fight over the last weekend, losing a split decision to Carl Robertson, but having multiple submission, decision, and knockout wins on the regional Brazilian scene. Really a fun, well-rounded fighter, solid striking, really sits in the pocket, doesn't move his head too much, but has solid output, will throw a 2-3 strike combination to push you up against the fence and turn it into a grimy fight. He did it against Robertson, and he did it against Perez as well, where Thurman's one of these guys that he's not going to flash you. He's not going to do anything outstanding. He's not going to throw a spinning hook kick and land it on you, or a scissor kick or some crazy shit. He's going to get in your face and grind you out. He makes a lot of his opponents look very mundane, but it's because he's just constantly wall wrestling them, getting them on the cage, dirty boxing on them, and just not letting people show off here. And against Andrew Sanchez, the longtime UFC fighter here, 11-5 is coming off of a loss. I feel like we know what we're getting with Andrew Sanchez. D1 wrestler, all sorts of heavy-duty freaking credentials, solid striking, not the best chin in the world, but a gas tank that is just goes into the second round, but when his gas tank falls off is when he gets finished. Andrew Sanchez will literally gas himself so bad going for takedowns that in that second and third round, he starts to put his hands on his knees and people just start teeing off on him, and he hasn't been able to make that turn. He's in many fights that he's lost, it's always been that gas tank, and it just makes that chin diminish that much more. And here I see Thurman pushing him into that deep water. I see Thurman potentially giving up that first round, because especially if Sanchez comes out with the wrestling heavy game plan that he does, he'll get a ton of takedowns in round number one. But after that, he might not be able to get it down so much. And that's where I feel like Thurman's really going to be able to turn it on, dirty box it. I had a decision. I think I'm going to go TKO round number 3. I think it's going to be death by cardio, and it's going to be that wilting of Sanchez that we've seen since the Tough House days. He just falls off of a cliff when he does. Wellington Thurman, TKO round number 3, another favorite in my pocket. Who do you think you're taking for this one?
Another favorite in your pocket. I think I'm going to go with the favorite as well here, and I don't have too much to add. I'm not really excited about either guys. This is a weird fight card for me. There are a couple of fights that were thrown together really last minute, and then there's a couple of them that I just am like, Andrew Sanchez has kind of never shown up. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Thurman's been underrated the whole time he's been in the UFC, and Sanchez has been overrated the whole time he's been in the UFC. I don't know. Give me Thurman. Give me a boring, slow, depressing decision.
On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the minus 160 favorite. Thurman, 8,500 against Sanchez's 7,700. On average points, Sanchez gets 67 points. Thurman, an average of 60 points. So I like Thurman here, but for 8.5, I was hoping I was going to get him in that 8.2 range.
You know how you say a tall man style, and it's like a style and a way a guy looks in the ring? I think there's this lazy man style, and I would never be able to point it out if it wasn't so fresh on my head with Shabazian versus Brunson. Shabazian's builds a lot like Sanchez, where it looks just like lazy man even when in the first round. The hands are heavy, low, kind of like walking around in this weird way. It's just like a heavy body style. Sanchez looks like that in there the whole time to me. Is Thurman the one? Thurman the one you were saying that had the bad gas tank, or Sanchez? I'm sorry.
Sanchez.
Okay, that's
Sanchez.
what I thought too. I totally agree.
Yeah. Yep. Do you think you're going to be playing either one on DraftKings?
No, they seem like low-scoring, boring fight.
That's kind of what I see it as well, even though I have a finish. I could move to a decision on Thurman by the weeks out after we see weigh-ins, but yeah, I'm going to probably stay away from that bout as well, see it being fairly low-scoring. Then we move on to 155 pounds, where we have a profile matchup with Nasrat Hapgrass, better known as Baby Gast, on the show, coming in against debuting Alex. So,
That's weird.
hey, you know them hips and them nips.
Yeah.
Do it for me.
Hips and
You
nips. Hips and nips.
So Hapgrass being all sorts of hyped up against the alpha male wrestling coach standout, Alex Munoz being a wrestling state champ, national D1 wrestler out of Sacramento. He was originally from Texas, though. The perfect 6-0 fighter has fought on the Contender Series as well and won a decision. Didn't get the contract against Nick Newell. Went back to the regional scene, got another decision. Once he's finally stepped up in competition, those early finishes that Alex Munoz had in there haven't come about because he's finally fighting, not the janitor and not just the regular guy down the street. He's actually fighting other professionals in here, and I think that's going to be much more of his fight style moving on now that he's at this top tier level. He does like to use his wrestling, as I was saying. He's the alpha male's wrestling coach there. So it's only a matter of time till he leaves Uriah Faber and starts his own little club. But for right now, Uriah's treated him good. He has a solid overhand right, good gas tank, will shoot for takedowns whenever he's not getting the best exchanges. But he doesn't have, like I've been saying on these other guys throughout the night, he doesn't have that flash power. He doesn't have anything that'll blow you out of the water. Against Nick Newell, a one-armed fighter, he couldn't even finish him. It went to a decision. Yeah. I know I'm a dick. But I don't,
Didn't Justin Gaethje, or did Justin Gaethje finish him just fine?
Finished him.
Oh, okay.
Finished him just fine, I believe. So, and I believe like Dana and other people even said that, like, we love Nick Newell, love his story. UFC fighter, might just not be in the cards for him, but he can be on the PFL scene and fight a bunch of other guys, but people are starting to understand how to beat him. Either way, in this fight against Hapgrass, it's a really, really uphill battle. A big favorite for a reason. Hapgrass coming off of a loss to Drew Drover, but getting 3 fights before that against Ikesi, Joaquin Silva, knocking them all out. Coming out of TriStar, we got a great educated kickboxer. He's finally lost a lot of that baby fat and really musculared out there. Against Dober, Dober just showed that he had a superior ground game, but it wasn't just the ground game. Dober actually landed quite a few good strikes. He's out of that Elevation Fight team and just been fighting on all cylinders. And this fight all matters whether that takedown can come about, because Munoz is going to be searching for it heavy duty, and Hapgrass is going to have to be sprawling hard. Now, the difference here is that Munoz doesn't have that one-punch ability. He doesn't have the striking to be able to set up those shots. He's just going to be shooting. Like we said, Frankie Sainz versus Martinez, he's just going to be shooting. So Hapgrass is going to have a lot of fast knees coming up the middle to intercept those. He doesn't throw that intercepting knee, which I wish he would, but he has that in his repertoire. He is, I think, a Norwegian type of boxer, or boxer from over in Germany before he came over to TriStar. So he can make those reads real time. And I think that Alex Munoz is going to get finished in round number 2 here. There's a reason there's a big favorite for Hapgrass. If there was going to be some sort of a win for Munoz, I think it's only a decision. So I like the finish potential for Nasrat. Give me him in a lot of spots. Who do you think are going to be taken in this bout?
This is way too much too soon, and kind of disrespectful in a way to me for Nasrat Hapgrass. I do understand that he got knocked the F out, but he got knocked the F out by Drew Dober on a mad tear right now. We loved everything that Drew Dober has been putting together of recent, and his TRT body and his TRT jawline. He knocked out Nasrat. Hopefully that's the loss. It's been a long enough time to me for Hapgrass to come in here. And up until that point, he was one of the fastest guys in the division. He has a good ground game, good takedown defense, good striking. I can't imagine that he's not going to be even better here than the last Nasrat Hapgrass we saw. So I liked his trajectory up until that point. I thought Drew Dober was too soon still for him, even though he's been in the UFC a little while. I don't think Alex Munoz is the same. So give me Nasrat Hapgrass. I could see a nasty knockout finish because he's so fast-handed. Once he gets someone to the ground, he can lay off 10 strikes in 4 seconds and get the fight waved off. So I like your KO potential for Nasrat. If I see it coming, I see like around 3, like that veteranship of the people that he's gone against and how many times he's done this pay off. Maybe the end of round 2. Give me Nasrat Hapgrass in this fight.
Minus 265 favorite. Nasrat's going to end up being 9,000 even against Munoz's 7,200. This is one of the guys that I'm going to be trying to pay up for a little bit here, and I'm going to need some other underdogs to afford him. So I'm actually, if I can fit him in, he's the one that I will be trying to. I can't say I build my lineup around him, but I do feel like he's going to be in that 60% range for Hapgrass if I can afford him.
Agreed.
So at 9,000. At 9,000, it should be an entertaining one. Definitely one I'm looking forward to. Then we move on to 185 pounds where we have not the headlining preliminary bout, close to it, with a short notice replacement. Kevin against debuting Joaquin Buckley. Buckley coming in with a 10-2 record, winning his last 2 fights in the LFA via TKO. Prior to that, losing in Bellator in one of his losses via decision. Buckley has a ton of power in here. Very bodied up. The St. Louis fighter, is a triangle in there. All shoulders, throws. He's a southpaw who throws a good straight left down the middle. On the ground, he's serviceable, but he's more just a submission defense guy. He's not really trying to submit you by any means. He definitely likes to get the fights done with his hands. Here, his gas tank is shown. For his size, I thought it would be worse than it is. It's not good, but when you see how muscular he is, you're like, this guy isn't going to go more than a round. And then he does good as of round number 2. Round number 3, he can sustain it, but he's not increasing. He's not moving any faster. And those punches definitely do move a little bit more labored in here. But Buckley shows that, he's got a lot of power in here. Here for Holland, we know what we're getting. He's someone who's trying to get as many fights as possible, and he's willing to take them up against anybody. He had a fight last week that fell out minutes before they walked out. I've only heard that before twice ever with Tom Breeze and Stefan Struve are the only other guys I've heard of something like that happening. So really, really weird. Holland's ready to go. He doesn't cut a lot of weight for 85. Holland's one of these guys that's weighs in at 182, 185, where I feel like Buckley may be moving up for 170, and he's not cutting the weight. He ended up fighting 4 days ago and 1 hour against Jackie Josh. So he's just didn't have too much of a problem with him. Starched him pretty quickly in there. But I think that Buckley's just taking any single to the UFC here, and then he's going to get hopefully a big step down. But I see Holland, striking-wise, a better striker on the ground, by far better. It's just that power. If Holland goes back to that clinch, goes to the ground at all, should be quick work for him. I'm going to go submission round number 2. I could see myself moving up to round number 1, because if Holland has any type of IQ, he's not going to strike at all with him. He's going to shoot right down on him and be able to slow down Buckley, which will essentially just, cook him until he gets that finish. As a lot of people, I like Holland a lot here. Who do you think you're going to be taking in this bout?
I like that Holland, like you were saying, isn't a guy that he walks around at regularly 200 pounds that we're worried about having to make this strenuous cut twice right on top of each other. So that part to me is comforting. Joaquin Buckley, he's such a huge dude. I imagine he does have to cut weight, so making that 1 week weight cut to get down to the 185 is going to be more strenuous on him. I like the take him down, rinse and repeat decision for Kevin Holland, kind of staying out of harm's way, laying down pitter-patter points where he needs to. I don't know if this will be an exciting fight, but I think Kevin Holland by decision as well.
Just double checking to see what weight. No, I mean, Joaquin Buckley fights at 185 pounds. I was thinking maybe he was a 70-pounder moving up. So 4 days, he's got to make another weight cut. This one doesn't even have a DraftKings line out right now.
And like you were saying, big tits. Like he's a muscular guy with
He's
big tits.
ultra muscular.
And a lot of the muscle guys, they can lose and gain that weight back because of all the water in their muscles, but it doesn't mean it's good for you.
Right. And on 4 days' notice,
Yeah.
his last fight, there's no DraftKings line out yet, but Holland, as far as the betting line is, minus 450 against the plus 360 underdog here against Buckley. Holland's one of these guys, as I was saying with Hapgrass, I'm going to be putting him in a lot of spots. He's going to be expensive, but I'm going to try to pay up for him. Probably in that like 40-30% range. I don't see Buckley in too many spots that I'm going to be exposing myself to that type of danger. But hey, he's a UFC fighter officially. He'll be able to say that for the rest of his days. We'll have to wait for the lines to come out on them. Then we go to the 170-pound division.
My little
where
victory. It's so little.
Yes.
It says Lewis versus Olenik now on our YouTube channel, but I can't get that picture changed until the show's done. So, brr. Anyways.
We're trying. Thank you, fan around and try it. It is a work in progress. And a work in progress here at 170 pounds is Laredo Staropoli coming in against the Dirty Bird, Tim Means. Pepe in here is 9-2, losing his last fight in the UFC against Muslim Salikov in a decision. Prior to that, beating Thiago Alves, beating Hector Aldana, really showing that with that Argentinian kicks and that good gas tank that he can go a hard three and just pitter patter you nonstop, constantly just throwing movement in there. Liking what I see from Staropoli. Doesn't shoot too many takedowns, but when guys shoot on him, he has good to get back up to his feet when he has been shot on. But Staropoli likes to keep it standing. He likes to go to the body a lot with those kicks, and as an educated striker, he's definitely someone who's growing at 27 years old. The Dirty Bird has seen better days for sure, 29-12. He's been one of these guys lately for us that has been a big fade train of mine. At 36 years old, Dirty Bird has just had a lifelong career of fighting MMA, a lot of issues back and forth with a lot of injuries. I had a big underdog against him in Daniel Rodriguez 5 months ago, where he was standing guillotine choked, but don't get it twisted. Rodriguez unleashed on him prior to that submission, and as did Thiago Alves, who he beat in a submission. Didn't look so bad in there. Nico Price finished Dirty Bird in there. He beat Rick Rainey. Marias got him in a split decision, but I just don't like what I see with Dirty Bird. He is the better credentialed striker here. He just can't take the punch anymore. He used to be able to take that shot, throw back his receipt, and keep the fight in there. But we've just seen now that once it starts rolling downhill, it's harder for him to turn the fight around. I do believe he had a pretty nasty injury against Nico Price. That was a while ago, so he's already fought back since then. But regardless here, I'm on the fade train. I've just been fading Dirty Bird Means. Staropoli's shown a good chin and he's showed a good gas tank, and I actually think Staropoli hits hard enough to be able to knock out Tim Means. Give me another finish against round number 1. I could then move that into 2. It's really the fade train. Staropoli had a little bit of hype. It got subdued a little bit. That's why this line is hanging around pick'em. But I actually think that if that last fight would have been a decision the other way, I mean, we'd be seeing minus 300. And it's all fading that chin. Staropoli everywhere. Who do you think you're taking in this one?
I'm going with Dirty Bird Means. I just really have lack of faith in Staropoli. He hasn't shown me anything in the UFC to make me be really excited about him. And, Dirty Bird sometimes win one, lose one, win one, lose one. He's on a win one. It's like he knows exactly what he has to do. If I'm not worried about him getting submitted in a fight, I'm okay with him standing on his feet. He does have a soft body, which I don't know. Staropoli isn't crazy that I have to worry about him taking advantage of that. That being said, it's not because I am not fading Tim Means. It's just because I still don't think Staropoli he's not a guy I see on the upswing. So I still think Tim Means, even though he's a little less than a gatekeeper at this point, he's like a yard dog, I still don't think Staropoli has enough to get through the yard, even to get to the gate. So give me Tim Means by a dirty decision.
On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the minus 145 favorite Staropoli, 8,300 against the Dirty Birds, 7,900 plus 120 underdog. So slight underdog there for you. It's going to be a dirty one. I really like Staropoli there for 8-3. He's the salary relief. I'm going to be looking forward to afford my other 9 guys.
What's his normal points he puts out in a fight?
53-point average. So not too
That's
high
almost
if he doesn't get that finish.
Points.
Dirty Bird with an average of 63 points in here.
I'll take Dirty Bird with a comfortable loss record in there to average it out. Even on a loss, he's still averaging, probably 50 points.
So definitely one to watch. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be the headlining preliminary bout as well. So it's right before the main card. And we should do Lebiz before we get there.
We can drop business. Do I dare drop stream right now? I'm gonna do the stream. I'm gonna fix the picture so it's not driving me crazy anymore. And then we will be right back with all the right information on YouTube. So drink.